My name is John Campbell. I'm the owner of Grazing LLC. We're in Alta Vista, Virginia on the solar site. I've had animals my whole life. I've been doing the solar grazing for over a year now, and we manage close to 700 acres. So we started in 2023 with our first site, which we're on now, and we've picked up additional sites since then, and we run approximately 1,300 animals. The percentage of our grazing sites, as opposed to solar to other farms we have, is approximately 95%. This has really allowed us to grow our flock exponentially. The service we provide, we use a hybrid system. We lead with our sheep. They're our main vegetation management tool, but we also have a number of different mowers. We provide complete services with mowing, steep slope mowing. We also provide a lot of other services for the site, such as road maintenance, just pretty much anything they need on site that does not deal with the electrical side of it. How I got on the first site was word of mouth through the Border Collie community. Several friends of mine were doing this up in the Northeast. They talked to me about it, and then I just started looking around at local sites that were already built, and a lot of phone calls, a lot of wading through 800 numbers, and we found the correct contact on this site and went from there. Before we started grazing it, they were mowing it and not having very much success. And we've been a lot more successful with a hybrid system of mainly using the sheep. The contracts are typically awarded through a competitive bid process, and you know, people will bid it mowing, just with straight mowing. People will bid it with just using sheep, and we'll bid it our way with a hybrid model. Typically, we try to get at least a 2-year contract on a bigger site because there's such a capital investment to scale up to a site this size. So with our hybrid system, typically on the mowing system, it'll be priced per mow. With our hybrid system, we give a per acre price per year. They all have height requirement to stay within compliance, but in our system, we mainly use the sheep for that, and again, just clean up with the mowers. Site access varies between companies. I've been very fortunate with the companies we work with that will allow us 24/7 access and to maintain animals on site at the appropriate stocking rate year-round. The management on every site, you may think you have it figured out, but you're always learning. This is more of a art than a science. You know, last year this time we had a tremendous amount of grass growth because of the precipitation. This year we're in a drought, so that will definitely, you've got to be very fluid in your management style with the stocking rate, where you're moving the animals to, how much you're mowing, how little you're mowing. And as you're on a site longer, you learn more and more about the site. We market our vegetation management services through conferences, a lot of phone calls. We have a website, and a lot of word of mouth. You know, as far as the lambs, which is our main crop, we run all hair sheep, so they're not a dual source, they're a single source for the meat. We'll direct market some of that, and some of that will be wholesale to livestock markets. I certainly lease other farms, but they make up a small percentage of the total acreages we graze. A lot of the key ingredients for a new lease would be distance from our home farm, fencing on the property, water access is imperative, and the maturity of the grass. This site is more mature. It's 4 or 5 years old, as opposed to a new site that was just constructed. The grass won't come in, it'd be in as well, so you'll just have to certainly reduce your stocking rate on that. The access to water is just super important for the animals. You know, we're out here in 95-degree weather. While sheep don't take as much water as cattle and horses, they still do require it. Typically the fence on solar sites is a given. It's very secure all the way around. And then it would just be distance. The sheep don't have any trouble with low panels, low leading edges, or cable trays. When you're doing a hybrid system in mowing, those can become a challenge to get underneath. That's a huge advantage of the sheep. They don't have any trouble with that. Hopefully the developers are starting to design more. The big thing's water. You're probably tired of hearing me say that, but if you talk to most solar grazers, that's a huge aspect, is have a good water source on site. Some of the biggest challenges in solar grazing is you are combining two worlds of agricultural and a whole different utility industry, and it's education. Just making sure everybody's getting educated on how sheep act, what you need to do around sheep, working with the construction guys. If you're on a site that's being under construction, it can be challenging at times because there's just more people, more equipment around. But typically the sheep will stay away from all that. I think the biggest challenge with the vegetation management on site, again, would be the mowing aspect of things, as far as low leading edges on fixed array panels and cable trays. Certainly in a fixed array system, you've got to have something that can go with the cable tray. You've got to have something that can go in between the rows and turn around and come back out. And that limits your options. Solar grazing, I'm a huge fan. I mean, it's not perfect. You've got to mow some, but it just allows you to, it's allowed me to grow my flock in a way that I could never do that if I had to go out and buy the land. I'm on a 2-year lease, a 2-year rolling lease for this, and they've allowed me 24/7 access, which is not standard in the industry, but very, very helpful when you have animals, because they certainly don't run on our schedule. Sometimes there might be an issue, you've got to come at night or on the weekend. The lease here has given me an opportunity to graze 700 acres, which, unless I hit the lottery, I never could do that. The impact of solar sites on our operation has been exponential. Before we got into solar grazing, we would run approximately 150 to 200 head of sheep. We've grown that over 6-fold now, and it's also provided additional revenue streams as far as lamb sales, selling breeding stock. The words of wisdom I would have, it's a lot more that goes into this than just buying a bunch of sheep and putting them on a solar site. My belief is, if you have long-term success, you need to look at it as a professional business. You've got to be very responsive to your clients, to their needs, to their wants and desires. I think it's great. It's a great business. It's a great industry. It will continue to grow. But you've got to be careful on scaling up, because there's a big difference from running 50 sheep to 500 to 1,200. For the developers, and I have this discussion all the time with the developers, is first and foremost water. Go ahead and put a well or two in. It's certainly an upfront cost, but it will save you money over 20 or 25 years of the lease. Get the leading edges up a little bit on the fixed array panels, and I don't think this will happen, but not use cab systems. So if we're going to mow this, and that cab system wasn't there, I could have a nice cab tractor and a 15-foot bush hog go up through there. Now what I've got to have is a zero turn that can come down, turn around and go out, and do that twice. So you can see what that adds to the time of mowing. The term solar grazing or agrovoltaics is relatively new. And I guess I wish people would certainly understand that it does provide a dual use for the property. One of the knocks against some of the utility-sized solar sites is you're taking it out of farm production. You're taking it out of agriculture production. And that does not have to be the case. We can certainly dual use the property. We've shown that it works. That'd be a great case study of growing our flock 6-fold to do that, and without the solar sites, we wouldn't be able to do that. There's certainly starting to be some pushback on solar. I think that's come from maybe early on some sites that were not well designed and not well put in. I can tell you the sites that I'm seeing now are designed much better, using much more level ground, not as much slope on it. They're much more conscious of soil compaction and getting the vegetation in so you don't have the soil erosion. And I think more developers are looking at, I know there seems to have been a systematic shift in the last 90 days as far as more developers asking about solar grazing. And it's becoming much more important to communities for them to be able to approve a site.